People have lost 60 pounds eating sprouts with no diet. And what happens is that they have to go to the doctor, not because they're not feeling good, to titrate down the medicines because they don't need as much of the statins, of the blood thinners.
What if you can boost your energy, balance your gut, and support your hormones just by growing a handful of living plants on your kitchen counter? On today's show, I'm joined by Doug Evans, the author of the Sprout Book and a pioneer in functional plant-based nutrition. We are exploring why fresh sprouts are one of the most nutrient-dense, affordable, and overlooked tools for daily vitality, and how adding them to your plate can help you feel clearer, lighter, and more in sync with your body in just days. All right, Doug, let's do some rapid-fire questions.
Let's go.
Let's go. Okay, I got one for you. You love sprouts. What is the king of all sprouts? Which one?
Broccoli sprouts.
Broccoli sprouts. Okay. If you can say, what's the biggest misconception people have about sprouts?
People think they're a garnish or a side dish when in fact they are the original superfood.
The original super. Okay. All right. I gotta go. If what's the most tasty and delicious sprout?
I'd say easiest to eat, most familiar flavor is the lentil sprouts on day 3.
On day 3. How long does it take from a seed to go to a sprout?
They start to germinate in the 2 to 3 days, and that's when they complete the metamorphosis into a vegetable. So I would say day 3.
Can sprouts change your life?
100%.
100%.
100%.
Okay, let's get into this interview, man. Okay, all right. You piqued my interest. Sprouts can change your life. And for those viewers and listeners, Doug has been on the show. You've really started going deep on the sprouts, and people, one of the most beautiful things you said is we can use sprouts in a New York City apartment.
That's right.
Even if you don't have access to a garden. And that really clicked for me. I was like, wow, everyone has access to this.
Yeah. So this is the fact. You can grow sprouts without soil, without sunshine, without fertilizer, on your kitchen countertop, in your dorm room, on your coffee table, in days, without soil, sunshine, or fertilizer. So there's a miracle about sprouting where the entire universe is contained within a seed. And a seed is a complete living organism in a dormant state. And by simply adding water and following a protocol, you get to unleash this energy into like a combustion, and the meristematic stem cells that are activated by adding water to the seed begins the sprouting process. So sprouts are up to 100 times more nutritious than all other vegetables.
Wait. Say that again. Say it again, because I think the viewers and listeners really need to get clear with this.
Yeah. Sprouts are up to 100 times more nutritious, more nutrient dense than all other vegetables.
But how is that possible? Is it because it's in a raw form? It's coming from a seed and it still retains the nutrients? It's in an early stage?
Well, a seed contains an endosperm and an embryo. And when you activate it with water and you trigger this germination process, it's rapid active cell growth. So the stem cells of the plants start this metabolic process. So there's active metabolizing going on. So there's a transformation from a seed into a vegetable. And because it's all happening in a young, just like when a baby is developing, right? So an infant, human infant is growing, every aspect is growing in that first year, far more than in any other part of their life. That's what's happening in the plant development. And because the plant is vulnerable, it has defense mechanisms to keep away predators like insects and the like. And those metabolic processes are the formulation that the plant, in the case of broccoli sprouts, are creating a hermetic effect in the body. So you're actually activating the heat shock proteins. It's reducing oxidative stress. It's regulating insulin levels, all because of the concentrated activity. And as the plant starts to develop and as it starts to grow, it's getting more fiber, it's getting more water, but there's a finite amount of the phytochemicals that are in every seed. And so as the plant is growing, they're actually getting diluted.
I see. So because it's such a young age, it hasn't grown to the capacity where everything's becoming diluted and everything's concentrated.
That's
Basically, sprouts are a lot more concentrated than the more mature plant.
That's right.
Okay. And you mentioned the broccoli sprout.
Yes.
And the broccoli sprout, you would say, is the king of all broccoli sprouts. King of all sprouts.
Well, it's the most researched, right? In 25 years ago, when Dr. Jed Fahey at Johns Hopkins was doing the research, when him and Paul Talley discovered sulforaphane, they studied it. And now there's more than 2,000 peer-reviewed published studies on sulforaphane alone, which comes only from broccoli, right? So only from broccoli. Mm-hmm. And when they were looking at what stage had the most of the precursor to sulforaphane, glucoraphanin, it was in the broccoli seeds. Mm. But turns out seeds have enzyme inhibitors, they've got lectins, they have phytic acid. So it's hard to digest and people don't normally eat seeds. But in 3 days, the seed goes into a sprout and then it becomes bioavailable and consumable. So this is just, there's so much magic, but sprouts never had their day in the United States because our food industry, aside from everything that's going on with food dyes and artificial ingredients and all of that, the food industry is driven by profit. And if you go into any grocery store, everything is in a bag, in a box, in a jar, in a can, in a bottle, and it's been pasteurized, it's been cooked, it's been denatured. They're adding monosodium glutamate, they're adding preservatives. And so we've gone away from fresh into processed and shelf stable. So because sprouts are so young and so fresh with a short shelf life, there was no money behind them.
Right.
So there's no national or international sprouting companies. And my insight when, I moved to the desert, and you've been to my home, it's not only an environmental desert, it's a food desert. So there's no stores, no grocery, no health food stores. So I had to ask the universe, like, how am I going to live in the desert? Because growing your own food is really difficult, right? And turns out nature provided a solution, which was sprouts. And so within 1 cubic foot with 6 jars, I was growing thousands of calories a day, and I was able to live on sprouts. I couldn't believe it. Like, I'm pinching myself saying, is this okay? Is this true? Like, am I going to become deficient?
Right.
And it turns out that the sprouts contain every micronutrient, phytonutrient, polyphenol, bioflavonoid, antioxidant, every amino acid to form complete proteins are in sprouts. And then there's a whole other level of these micronutrients and phytochemicals that don't even exist outside of fresh living things. They just don't exist. So by consuming the sprouts, you're getting the key macronutrients, you're getting the fibers and the proteins and the calories, but you're also getting this whole other potpourri of infinite other chemicals that just build your strength. And sprouts are also one of the only truly living foods. So we talk about whole foods, right? You go to Whole Foods, and if you get a head of cauliflower or a pineapple or an apple, you're getting part of the food, right? Because it's being cut from the root structure, from the stem, from the tree, from the plant. When you're eating a sprout, you're consuming the root and the shoot and the endosperm and the embryo, and it's living, right? It's growing, it's active, it's sequestering carbon and oxygen from the environment. So it's a very powerful living food, and no one is even thinking about that, right? The world is thinking about fat, sugar, salt, triggering the dopamine pleasure sensors in the brain. And what I'm looking for that edge. I'm looking for that magic. And when I'm consuming the sprouts, like I'm light, like, I feel like I'm ready to elevate. Like my energy is just on. My sleep is on. I'm 59 years old and I feel more energetic than I was when I was 17 and I joined the US Army.
Is that right?
100%.
The energy's through the roof.
Through the roof consistently. And I know that like now I consume sprouts and I consume fruit and I consume seaweed and I'll eat some other vegetables. But my go-to, my craving, because of the diversity in my microbiome, having alfalfa, radish, clover, broccoli, lentils, mung beans, chickpeas, green peas, like this is my microbiome diversity is craving more sprouts.
You feel that your gut is wanting more sprouts.
Well, the gut talks to the brain, and then my brain is filtering out like, oh, what does this mean? And I just tune in. I was like, oh, I got to eat more sprouts.
Amazing. And so your energy is through the roof. Your sleep is better. For people viewing and listening, they go, okay, I want to try some sprouts. How long is it going to take for them to feel these benefits?
Like I would say within a week.
Within a week.
Within a week. You start sprouting, you start eating. And what happens is most people, and I say most, 2 out of 3 Americans are overweight or obese, right? And the remedy, and we've talked about this, they're taking GLP-1s, agonists, Wegovy, and Ozempic. Turns out that sprouts are a much better alternative for weight management because they are high fiber, low fat, low calorie. So if you eat a lot of sprouts, you will fill up because of the insoluble fiber will fill you up. It's water-based, so the body will actually like juice it out and the insoluble fiber will feed the microbiome. But by eating a lot of the sprouts, you'll actually naturally secrete GLP-1 peptides. So it's so supportive. And now the nature and the science is documented that we now know this. So the risk is when someone kind of goes off the rail and they eat something that's processed, that's refined, that has added salts, added oils, added sweeteners, then it's like pornography, right? And you go off the rails. And so what I encourage people to do is eat the sprouts first. Eat the sprouts when you're hungry on an empty stomach, because no one, except maybe me, will eat sprouts as a dessert or a snack. Right? So you want to get the sprouts in. And then what I've discovered now, 7 years of sproutarianism, right, is that you can juice the alfalfa sprouts, the broccoli sprouts, the clover sprouts, the radish sprouts. They juice and it's so concentrated.
Wow.
Like 1 ounce of that is like, it's like a shot where, Red Bull tastes awful. And I haven't had Red Bull in 20 years. Red Bull tastes awful. This just tastes fresh, but it's so potent.
It's alive.
It's alive. But then if you add it to a smoothie, it can get mixed in with anything else.
Right.
But the other kind of breakthrough I had was instead of using protein powders, which are extruded and extracted and could have anything in them from lead and chemicals, like a cup of sprouted garbanzo beans and sprouted lentils is 20 grams of protein.
A cup of sprouted lentils.
A cup of sprouted garbanzo beans is 20 grams of protein.
It's incredible.
Of sprouted lentils is 7 grams of protein.
Wow.
And when you add some sprouted garbanzo beans, some sprouted lentils, some sprouted broccoli sprouts, and alfalfa sprouts, you're getting beta carotene, you're getting vitamin C, you're getting every essential amino acid to form complete proteins. And it's a living protein. So how the body responds to living enzymatically rich, like no one's talking about this. We talk about the gut microbiome and we talk about diversity, but having living foods that are predominantly water-based, that are fresh, that are enzymatically active is just a categorical game changer.
Yeah, 100%. I can imagine how much of a difference it can make on someone's health just by starting to add it in. And there's so many. You mentioned like more than 3. You know, I can only name 3.
There's infinite. Basically, every seed germinates and sprouts. The ones that I'm talking about are the ones that are most familiar, most prolific, safest to grow, and most inexpensive.
Yeah.
So like the idea of then adding them to soups, to salads, to entrees, to wraps. I was at the LA Hollywood Farmers Market, and me and my wife handed out 400 servings of broccoli sprouts and alfalfa sprouts. Like we're walking around the market, putting them on people's tamales, putting them on their pizza. And basically what I was saying is like by adding a handful of broccoli sprouts to your pizza, you're increasing the nutrition of that pizza by 1,000%.
1,000%.
1,000%.
By adding in sprouts to a food.
Yeah, absolutely. Because most of the other food is dead and devoid and doesn't have nutrient density. If you think about what most people are eating, pizza, pasta, bread, chips, crackers, there's no nutrients in it. They're fortified, but it's mostly carbohydrates that turn into sugar.
So when we think about sprouts, most people think about the garnish, right? Just put it on.
That's right.
At the end of your meal, put it on top and make it look nice. But you don't eat them like that. I've come to your house and you've given me sprouts as a meal.
That's right.
It's the majority. It's abundant.
You are worthy.
Yeah, I'm worthy. Worthy.
Right. It's just if you think about the average vegetable, the average lettuce and produce is traveling on a truck 2,000 miles across the country, separated from its root source, separated from Gaia for about 10 days. And the sprout is just this anomaly that's living, floating, breathing, growing. And that's what I want to eat. Like if I look at a scale, right, everyone has our discernment and our judgment, and everyone wants the best. Whether it's the best iPhone, it's the best car, it's the best partner, it's the best clothing. The thing that matters to me is I want to consume the highest quality nutrients on a per calorie basis, because anything else that you put in here, you're causing the body to work extra hard to figure out what it is, digest it, and excrete it. And in order for any nutrition to be assimilated in the body, it must be converted to a liquid, right? You eat a piece of meat, right? The body has to break it down. So it's forming acids to break down that meat into liquids and going through a whole digestive process. When you have water-based plants, they just go so smoothly.
Yeah.
So, another benefit is by going sprout forward is you'll probably get an extra poop every day.
And there's a lot of people out there who are constipated.
That's right.
Wow. Okay. So what is people who want to start sprouting, or even just going to the supermarket and buying sprouts, how much should we be having? How do we start introducing? You know, our bodies have this incredible ability to renew itself inside out at the cellular level. But as we age, this process really begins to slow down. That is why I discovered something truly game-changing. It's from MitoPure, from Timeline. I tried all of the health trends to get out of feeling tired or foggy, really feeling off my game. And if you've done the same, you are not alone. I promise you this. It's really time to go deeper into your cells, deeper into your mitochondria. And what makes MitoPure special is that it's not only clinically proven as a supplement to help your cells clean out and renew themselves, but it's like a reset button to your cellular health overall. And what blew my mind is people are seeing increases in muscle strength, which makes sense, right? Because we have so much mitochondria in our muscles. But up to 12% after 16 weeks, it actually boosts your muscle endurance by up to 70%. After 8 weeks. Yeah, there's research studies here on MitoPure. And this is with people not changing their workout routine, just taking MitoPure. And we're living longer than ever, but are we living truly better? And what if the key is not just adding years to your life, but it's really feeling better on a cellular level? I take MitoPure, I take 2 a day, every single day, whether it's capsule or their new gummies, which I do love. I look forward to those actually more than the capsules. Don't say it too loud. But I've seen firsthand how this cellular renewal can really translate to better results, better energy, better overall workouts. I love it. The gummies are actually sugar-free. They're naturally sweetened with stevia. They're vegan, gluten-free, and GMO. I am going to take these probably for the long term of my life. Hopefully they're out forever. I really love them. The science behind it is fascinating. MitoPure actually delivers 6 times more urolithin A than a glass of pomegranate juice. And we know that people drink pomegranate juice to live longer. And it's a #1 doctor recommended urolithin A supplement in the industry. Think of it like home maintenance, cleaning out the home, breaking down, getting rid of all the stuff that needs to be repaired so new energy can flow. There's spaciousness, right? The gummies are amazing. They fit perfectly into my daily routine, and I keep them on my kitchen counter. I take, like I said, 2 every single morning. I don't have to take so many pills. So I'm excited to share with you that you can get 20% off of your first Timeline purchase. There's never been a better time to experience the benefits of the MitoPure gummies. Go to timeline.com/DRG. That is TIMELINE.com/DRG and use the code DRG at checkout to receive 20% off today.
So the current guidance is recommending 6 to 8 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. That's the current guidance. In the past, it's been as high as 13, but through politics and lobbying, they've crammed it down to 6 to 8. So every fistful is considered a serving. So with the variety, for me, I'm probably getting 15 servings or 16 servings of sprouts in a day. What I would suggest for people is to have some protein sprouts, lentils, mung beans, garbanzo beans, as a source of protein. Protein is good. And then getting the medicinal sprouts, which is the broccoli sprouts. And then for salad replacement, the alfalfa and is just crunchy and fresh. And by buying it, you can go buy the sprouts. You live in LA. Most people don't have access to buying sprouts, and you don't know how fresh they are. So I love that these sprouting companies exist, and they're supporting the farmers markets and the grocery. And I also realize that everyone is entitled to have a little countertop garden and to experience the magic of growing fresh vegetables on your countertop.
Yeah, my girlfriend uses your sprouting kit.
I love it.
Yeah. So I'm looking at it. It's right here for those of you who are viewing. It's right in front of us. We have the sprouting kit and the seeds. So how long will it take for me to create sprouts from the moment I start this process?
So this is a measuring spoon. This is 35 grams of seeds. This 35 grams will turn into 350 grams. So 10x in 5 days.
Wow. 35 grams turns to 200 in 5 days.
Yeah. 35 grams into 350 grams in 5 days.
That's incredible. So 5 days I have food.
Yeah. And if you were to do the lentils, the mung beans, the green peas, and the garbanzos, you can start eating those in 3 days.
Wow. In 3 days, like
3 days.
I wake up in the morning Monday and then I'm enjoying them by Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So this is the miracle. And what happens is no one was talking about it. And I started to sprout 30 years ago. And for 23 of those 30 years, I thought of them as just a superfood, as a garnish. And it was only the unique opportunity of living in the desert did it clue me into this wasn't just a survival food, but this was the most nutrient dense food on the planet.
Yeah.
And normally when something is inexpensive, it's lower quality, right? This is one of those rare things where the highest quality is also the lowest cost.
That's very rare.
Very,
right?
yeah.
We're always wanting to pay more. What, and is that why sprouts haven't taken off at the supermarket? Because
there's no money behind it.
There's no money behind it.
There's no national, no international sprouting companies. You're going to see now, and I've seen it over the last, since my book came out in 2020, like the industry, the whole industry has risen, right? More and more people, like now if you go to the Whole Foods in LA, they sell 1 pound bag
They do?
of broccoli sprouts.
You only see those little containers.
Yeah, well, they sell out, but you see on the bottom shelf, they have 1 pound bags of broccoli sprouts. because the demand is there. And what happens is what people wanted, and they're being clued in. So the industry is rising. And what I see in the future is I see restaurants growing their own sprouts there. So my vision, knowing everything that I know about produce, is that produce should be grown locally and consumed locally. And everyone, should be growing their own food.
And it can change a lot. And for those of you who are out there in New York or somewhere downtown LA and don't think that you need a garden to grow your own food, you don't. You can do it in your
Well, look,
kitchen.
even in the largest agricultural states, Nebraska, and Texas, all food is coming from outside of the state. They're basically growing the monocrops, the wheat, the corn, the soy, and it's being exported. So people are so distant. Like you talk to the average kid in school, they think food comes from the supermarket.
Yeah.
They're not connected to the food. But now that I'm seeing, Sprouting Company has sold, over 10,000 sprouters, and our community is now hundreds of thousands of people following, interest in growing, that I'm seeing 7-year-old kids growing, and parents are sending the work in. We have one 98-year-old woman in Minneapolis who's still growing sprouts, 98 years old.
Wow.
And she's growing sprouts. Like, I'm going to go visit her for her centenarian 100th anniversary.
Yeah.
And she's been growing sprouts for 40 years.
That's incredible. And she does it with the Sprouting Company.
Now, now
That's amazing.
Now she's on the kits. And we even designed this jar so that a little old lady can hold it, because the big jar is hard to grip. So we even made like little detents for a kid. Ergonomically. And then the other thing that we can talk about is everyone's concerned with microplastics.
Yeah.
So the seeds have no microplastics in them because they're coming right out of the pod of the fruit of the plant. And the sprouting kit, the only thing that's touching the seeds or the sprouts is lead-free glass and stainless steel. So, like, if you want to control you want to eat food that's fresh, that the provenance of, that the equipment is sanitary, because you could get food, and I'm not an alarmist, but you get produce that's coming out of the field. Someone may have pooped in the field. They don't wash their hands. It's just such a burden. And so what to me, was a survival food now has become my food of choice.
And when the thing that really sticks out is, I know about sulforaphane and broccoli sprouts, but people don't necessarily know that it has an anti-cancer benefit.
Yeah. Well, the chemoprotective properties of them is that it literally will find weak cells and destroy them. And so also, when someone is going through traditional cancer treatment, radiation and chemotherapy, the sulforaphane actually helps boost and strengthens their metabolism while they're basically being nuked. So even though, like I'm biting my tongue, I'm not talking about any other things, that the entire journey of consuming the broccoli sprouts and the sulforaphane are one of the most medicinal foods that is available, where it has chemoprotective properties. It can also help regulate insulin levels in diabetics. It can reduce oxidative stress and scavenge free radicals. It could release the GLP-1 peptides. And even from sun exposure, like by consuming the broccoli sprouts in advance, it can help provide UV protection from internally, not externally, through the skin. So there's so much benefits from having medicinal grade food, and no one's talking about it because there's never been a TV commercial for sprouts. Just there's no money there. So it takes platforms like yours and professionals like yours that are kind of opening up the window and the consciousness to people about like, hey, do you want to take the red pill or do you want to take the blue pill?
That's right. That's right. One thing with broccoli sprouts that I notice, I've always been a fan of broccoli sprouts, especially for women who are estrogen dominant or are metabolizing estrogen in the way that can theoretically be problematic over time, or the cancer-causing metabolite of estrogen, or the one that affects the DNA. And I've tested, I wasn't able to control for everything, but I said, okay, just add this much of broccoli sprouts when I was in practice. This much of broccoli sprouts. I'm not even going to give you sulforaphane as a supplement. And so many women's estrogen would start normalizing. And I was like, wow, is it really that potent? And it is. Their liver gets to metabolize and break down estrogen so much easier.
Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest things is, now that I'm seeing is even on perimenopause, people are very concerned in how sprouts can actually build a solid platform to reduce symptoms and make that whole process. So there's a whole like magic and miracle to sprouting, but it's all about food, right? If someone were to look at what do they eat and do they know the origin of it? When was it grown? How fresh is it? What are the true nutrients? And how does it make them feel? And that's where I was really inspired by the work of Dr. Joel Fuhrman, when he talked about people that are literally just living to eat. Where's my next meal from? I want pizza. I want pasta. I want burgers. I love barbecue. I want chicken wings. And just the madness. And people become, rabid.
Yeah.
Thinking about food. And if you can slowly either wean off of it or do a fast or do something, and you can reset your microbiome and eat the food that you feel your body needs, authentically needs, not wants, because the brain, it's just filled with trickery, right? The brain will cause someone to commit infidelity. The brain will cause someone to steal, to, cheat on their taxes, to eat garbage. So you can't really trust the impulses of your brain. So you have to go deeper in and get that mind, body, heart connection and make your decisions of what you're going to consume, because the body, we can see the impact.
Yeah.
I remember, when I was doing all plant-based, all sprout-based and the like, and then I started to hang out with some people that were eating more cooked food, more processed food, more salt, more oil. And I gained, rapidly. I gained 20 pounds, but then I started to ache. And, my wife said, Doug, I thought I was going to at least get 10 good years out of you.
Yeah.
What happened? And I was like, oh, it's the diet. And literally I went back to, I went back home and I started to eat that, and I realized all the peer pressure, all the other parts. And then within weeks, I dropped the weight, felt flexible again, had no pain, the brain fog was gone. So you could see, that's what I'm saying, like in a week, if someone starts to eat sprouts in the week, they're going to just start to feel better and they're going to see a difference.
Yeah. Are you, when you're eating these sprouts, is your wife, your child taking part in the same thing? Are they part of the whole culture? And how's it affecting your child if they are eating sprouts?
So my wife ate sprouts through her entire pregnancy.
She did.
And we believe that our child had in utero development, flavor development. Mm-hmm. So now she eats ferments and sauerkrauts and sprouts.
She likes it.
She likes it.
Wow.
So she likes it. And she has never had, like a cupcake that was highly sweetened. So she's tuned in. So, but because it's hard to get a baby to eat in general, so like the whole family is plant-based. Mm-hmm. I'm 50% sprouts and 50% fruits and seaweeds. They're probably 20 to 25% sprouts and 25% fruit, but they'll still eat quinoa and brown rice and steamed vegetables and the like, because we want her to get more calories.
Yeah.
And my wife is still breastfeeding at 3 years. The baby's 3 years old, so she's still breastfeeding. So there's still a balance, but everyone knows. Like my daughter knows, and she goes, fresh.
She's saying
fresh.
Wow.
She knows fresh. And she's a little bit of a fruit snob. She'll go and she wants the smallest, sweetest strawberries. She wants the biggest blueberries. She wants the reddest pieces of the watermelon. Like she's tuned in.
She knows.
Like she sees daddy go hit the watermelon and she's listening to the sound. So she could tell you, we could go shopping in Air One. She'll tell you what's the good watermelon, versus it's 3.
But this is what you were saying, having a connection to the food is so important early on, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it can totally inform the rest of her life.
Hey, just imagine, she puts her hand in and she's touching the sprouts, and every sprout is different, right? The variety, the texture, the strength, feeling a watermelon. It's like you're connected, to the earth, versus picking up a box, picking up a can. Like you look inside and you see what happens, with heat. You denature things, like the texture changes. Like no one is overeating raw sprouts, right? But you take potato chips and you fry them and you salt them, I don't know how people even stop.
Yeah.
Right? Like they just don't stop.
It's hard to stop.
Because it's so addictive that even when they're full, they're still willing to eat, because it's just a mind game. But if you're able to eat things that are unsweetened, unsalted, that are natural, that's the remedy for solving, weight issues. Don't eat things that are going to trigger the addictive behavior of the brain.
Mm-hmm. You have been so passionate about this stuff for so long. And I can imagine, and you just mentioned a little bit about it, that it's difficult to, maybe go out to eat with friends or go to parties, birthday parties, dinners, lunches, brunches, because most people aren't serving sprouts or lots of sprouts, and the food's always different. So how do people who want to make that change, who go, okay, you know what, I really want to focus on eating more sprouts or even just more vegetables, how do you navigate the social pressures?
I mean, there's a continuum, right? So there's people that will eat anything, drink anything, sleep with anything, gamble anything, and like there's absolutely no control, right? So you have people that are fully out of control. Then you have other people that are extremely like anal retentive to the point that they seemingly have no life. They're taking 100 supplements. They're going to bed at 8 p.m. They're stop eating at 11 a.m. And they're like, it's so extreme. I think that everyone has to decide how much sacrifice they're willing to make or how much investment they're willing to make. And for me, I love the sprouts. Like I really authentically love them. And I love the fruit. So when I go out to eat, if I'm going out on a social level, like if you were inviting me out and we're going to a steakhouse, but I really want to spend time with you, I will eat before I go there. And then I'll just have, water with lemon and the like. And as long as I'm not criticizing, getting up on my soapbox, telling other people that red meat is this or that, no one cares whether I eat. People are only caring whether they get to eat. So it's important to take care of yourself. So if you, like when I travel with a cooler and I bring my sprouts and I bring my fruit, and I'm not dependent on airplane food. Like if you ever look at, the little airplane meal and you say, oh, can I see the ingredients? There's 100 different ingredients and preservatives. Like it's crazy. Garbage. So I know I'm going to be on a plane. right? I'm not flying last minute, right? I know I'm going to be on a plane, and I just plan because nutrition is important to me because I know the consequences of poor nutrition. Look, you could get away with anything in this short period of time, but it's all cumulative. So for me, if someone wants to go out to eat, they should plan in advance. They can choose the restaurants. If your friends really love you, and some friends are willing to eat anything and some are extreme, you go towards, satisfying, the norm, right? So you go to the most extreme level because pretty much anyone can eat in a vegan restaurant, right? But not everyone can eat in a steak restaurant, right? So if everyone loves each other, they don't have to go to the vegan restaurants all the time, but they can go there, for that. But like I went to the International Black Caucus in Las Vegas, in Washington, D.C., where you've got the Congressional Black Caucus. So you've got black senators, black congressmen, CEOs, executives. I got invited, and like I show up everyone's in black tie. I'm in like my organic cotton, industry of all nations, a jacket. And I had 2 paper bags, one with fruit and one with sprouts. And I tell the waiter that I just want empty plates. Don't bring me any food. So as I'm sitting at the table, they have 2 courses. They're getting filet mignon or they're getting salmon steak. And for me, I'm pulling, like a magician, I'm pulling stuff out, I'm putting it on my plate. And all eyes are on me.
They were looking.
Everyone was looking. And what I did was I was sharing my fruit, I was sharing my cherries, I was sharing my grapes. And I didn't tell anyone, no criticism about the salmon, probably farmed salmon, and, capo steak. I didn't say anything about it. I was just, they're saying, well, why aren't you eating? What are you eating? I was like, I love my fruit. I love my sprouts. And then I do everything I can not to talk about food in that environment because as long as you're not telling other people what to do, they don't care. But people are so interested.
They were taking interest in the sprouts and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Were they asking questions like, is it good for you? Or
they're asking questions. I think every person at the table, bought a sprouting kit afterwards.
Come on, really?
Oh, yeah. People are interested. What happens is, people are smart, right? And no one wants to feel like they've been duped. And, everyone knows, if people are overweight, they know it. And it's not that they don't have control. Right? Being overweight isn't about control. It's the environment is setting them up. And so if someone is busy and they're stressful, they're going to, and they don't have a lot of money, or they do have a lot of money, they're just going to eat what's available. So it requires the road less traveled. It requires making a decision of how important nutrition is for you. So, and that's a personal choice. And that's where, I invite everybody to sprout. Like someone sends me, scrambled eggs with sprouts on it. I post it on my Instagram. Someone puts, factory farmed salmon with sprouts on it. I post it because for me, I want people to be eating sprouts. I want them to be healthier. And I don't want to judge. I don't want to judge what other people do. What I want to do for me is I want to raise my standard. So I'm on this constant quest to learn more about nutrition, about metabolism, about sleep, about good habits. And then what I found out was living in an urban environment in a city, it was hard for me to get good sleep. It was hard for me to energetically separate from all of the madness that was going on. And when I moved to the desert, I was able to think, I was able to meditate, I was able to write, I was able to, just relax. My central nervous system my cortisol levels went down, my adrenals went down, and I was able to like be in peace.
I feel that, man. Yeah, I feel it. And I'm coming up to the desert this weekend.
Yeah, baby.
Just really disconnect because I feel so healthy there, right? And I haven't made the jump. It's a brave jump because there's not a lot of people there.
There's not
a lot of people, not a lot of good food too.
Yeah, well, actually, now I used to love eating out.
Yeah.
Right? I used to love eating out, and now I love eating in.
Yeah.
I just love eating in. Like I can control, because of planning, exactly what my meal is. And what the nutrition is, what the flavor profile is, what the texture is, what the crunch is, and when I eat. So and like, I don't even like to be disturbed. Like if I'm having a conversation, God bless the servers, but I find it so intrusive because like, I like to go deep. So all of a sudden you're sitting in a restaurant and you get interrupted once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and then you go.
Yeah.
And I never would have met my wife. We wouldn't be together if we would have been eating in restaurants. We only, got together because she came to Wonder Valley and we were like in the twilight zone. There's no other people and we're making our food. We're walking around. We're in nature. We're watching the sunrises and the moon rising. And it's so dark there. Even on a new moon, you can see the halo of the moon.
Wow.
Like it's so dark.
Yeah. It's really dark.
So that's where there's benefits of community, of being in the city, but there's also benefits to being in nature. And that's what I like. It's, a few hours away, so I can go there. I could come here.
Yeah.
And make magic.
I love that. So aside from the sprouts, is being in nature, is grounding, what are some other lifestyle stuff that has been transformative for you?
Bathing. Yeah. Soaking. Like a lot of people are talking about sauna and cold plunge, but hot bath gives you the same hermetic benefit of the sauna. And it's very soothing. So for me, one of the reasons I literally moved all the way out to Wonder Valley Hot Springs is because I wanted a bath that didn't have chlorine, didn't have fluoride, that was natural geothermal water. So soaking in bathing is the most relaxing thing that I could do. Like I know a lot of men, they don't take baths. They like showers and cold showers. To me, I love bathing. Like I love long baths. I don't need the candles and the incense.
Yeah.
I just like to be immersed in the water and I can relax. It's like one of the few times that I can truly relax is when I'm soaking in warm water, hot water.
Oh, it's incredible. It's incredible. And it's one of the highlights of when I go to Wonder Valley at one of your properties. I'll lay down on what's it, stone, volcanic stone?
It's the tubs are either made, these were monolithic boulders made out of granite, marble, or onyx.
Wow.
That I had hand carved into soaking tubs.
Unbelievable. And these things are incredible. I actually plan this weekend to be in one every single day.
Yeah. I mean, I've been for hours at a time. I take calls out there. I relax. I mean, just in the middle of the sun, the phone will shut itself off. So it's self-regulating there.
Right.
But I just love it.
I had such a great memory when I stayed at one of the properties. Is I put the water in, and it's hot springs water.
Yeah.
So it was soaking, and the sun was just coming up, and I went in, and it was just so quiet, and seeing the sun come up, and all you hear is nature. It was really a surreal experience, especially when you're living in the city. So viewers and listeners, like go into a hot spring and be in nature, like get into the water in nature. It's incredible.
Yeah. And the other thing that I would say is like, turn off your phone 2 hours before you go to sleep. Like you don't need blue block glasses, but start to dim the lights in your house, maybe light some candles.
Yeah.
And spend the last, 2 hours just breathing and being present away from the technology so you can kind of transition into deep sleep.
You turn off your phone.
My phone is off.
Yeah, no airplane mode off.
Off.
Okay.
Yeah, off. Well, by the way, you extend the life of your phone by 33% if it's off for 8 hours, right?
Really?
There's battery life.
Yeah.
Even if it's in airplane mode, you're wearing out the battery. So you get much better battery life if you actually physically turn the phone off.
Oh, wow. Incredible. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you have your boundary, turn it off. You put some candles on or dim lights. What about your sleep? I know this is something that you really value.
Yeah. Well, now we have a 3-year-old daughter. We as a family go to sleep. Like when the baby goes to sleep, we all go to sleep.
Well, what time is she going to sleep?
I mean, it could be as early as 7 o'clock.
No way.
As
You're in
late
bed
as
at 7.
I can be in bed at 7. Wow. And then I'll get up early. And while they're still sleeping, I'll get up and I'll go for my run. I'll go for my meditation. I'll begin my workout. But I like to go to sleep as a family.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's beautiful, right? Like the tribe.
Yeah. I mean, it really is very primal. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And we have one king size bed, and we have it set up like an MMA cage so that no one can fall off.
Oh, really? You have boundaries around it?
Yeah. We have like, we have mesh walls around all 4 sides.
Oh, wow.
Because, a lot of times people are like pushing and you don't want anyone to fall off.
Right. So you say you go for runs, you're doing your morning workouts. A lot of people are going, okay, well, how does this guy maintain muscle? How do you have muscle?
I do 300 push-ups a day, which is about 100,000 a year. Mm-hmm. And then I do about 100 air squats. And then I'll do some pull-ups. And then when I'm doing my running, I do some sprinting.
You do some sprinting?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I really like the sprinting. I don't like it, but I do it.
Yeah.
And I like it after I do it.
Yeah, it's never fun when you're doing it.
No.
But it's totally like that anaerobic muscle building turnover in your body. It's so much better than, I love it more than aerobic, like really strong interval training.
Yeah. I mean, I just like impulsively do that. And for me, it's the time is going to go by anyway. So I really have the Joe DeSena from Spartan Race mentality of like, just do hard things. So I just plan it out. And like we all have these calendars, we all have planners. We can plan out our day and the time is going to go by no matter what we do, right? So for me, I can take phone calls when I'm running. I'm listening to podcasts. And sometimes I just want to run in silence. I don't even bring my phone. So I'm just in pure silence, like taking in the nature.
Wow. So your connection to nature, movement, good sleep, family, connected, good food, nutrition has been your recipe.
Yeah. And also I would say my friend connections like are really, really powerful. Like I will speak to one of my close friends every day.
Every day you call
Every day.
them up.
I'll speak to one of my good friends. I'll call them up. They'll call me up and we'll find a time, to talk.
How long do you chat for?
We could talk for an hour.
Really?
Yeah.
You go deep?
We go really deep.
Wow. Every day you go deep?
Every day I go deep with a friend.
Okay. And every day going deep with a friend is what to your system?
I mean, it's really caring. Like you get to know them at like what's happening deep in their lives. And, those connections, we used to live in community, so you'd have it. And now, especially being isolated out in the desert, that connection. So it could just be like if I'm eating, so rather than eating alone, I'll eat. So I could be having lunch, with say Mike and, he's somewhere else and we're both eating, our shirts are off, we're eating, we're talking, we're laughing, and it's a connection that makes you feel like, oh, like life is beautiful. Mm-hmm. So I think the more connected you are with your friends and with your family, the more you can appreciate how beautiful life is.
Yeah. And your connection with food and your connection with nature.
Yeah.
It seems to me that that's sort of like the connected element of being a human is the remedy for really longevity and feeling good.
Yeah. I mean, look, how many people, like even in your network, have such great admiration for Warren Buffett, right? Oh, one of the wealthiest guys in the world, worth $100 billion. And I look at him and saying, the man is eating hamburgers. He's buying up farmland to grow corn to turn into high fructose corn syrup so we can sell candy and Coca-Cola and McDonald's, right? And then have insurance, because people are getting sick. And it's like this whole level, and then not even spending the money. So it's like all about just hoarding the money and creating systems to optimize the hoarding of the money at the exploitation of humanity, of the land, of nature. But in our society, that's what is, so profound, is that everyone wants to be a billionaire, right? Everyone wants to be a billionaire. And what I realize, and now that I'm getting older, I'm 59, right? So I'm not old, but I'm getting older. I have friends and their parents that are now turning 80, 90, etc., that have all the money in the world, but they're losing their fucking mind. They're getting dementia. They're getting Alzheimer's. They're forgetting everything. They're becoming paranoid. And it's like, what's the point? What's the point that they've lost it? So, being exposed to that, I'm saying, like, right now, what's important to me is like, hey, my mission is I want to like help people become healthy. That's enough to get me out of bed, to do good work, to drive, a few hours, to record a podcast, all these things, because I feel like that's my contribution. I'm sure you read The Alchemist, right? That became my personal legend, is to be the voice of the seeds and the sprouts that had no voice. And, turns out that message is being well received.
Yeah, and we've been waiting for it, man. And the voice is coming through you. I don't think it's a mistake. And you're doing a fantastic job of inspiring people. You have a book. What's that book right there?
Yeah, this is the Sprout book.
That's a Sprout book. That came out 2020.
2020. Okay. And, slight updates along the way. But when I wrote this book,
bestseller,
national bestseller, it was the #1 plant-based book on Amazon.
Wow. So
out of 4.2 million books on Amazon, the Sprout book was in the top 100 of all books on Amazon.
Incredible.
And I had never written anything before. I never went to college. So for me, like, to write a book was my Mount Everest, right? 288 pages, 60,000 words. It was real. No chat GPT.
No chat GPT back then.
So this was really hard for me to write this book. And every day I would sit and I would not get up until I wrote 500 words.
Oh, wow.
Like, that was I didn't eat, I didn't drink, I didn't eat Sprouts, I didn't go to the bathroom. I would sit down, I would not get up until I wrote 500 words. And literally sometimes I would be checking my word count after I wrote one word, hoping that maybe
it turns into 500.
Yeah. And it was really, really challenging. But that's why I love it so much. And it just resonates because it's really written from the heart.
Incredible. And it is just a history of sprouting or recipes. What's in there?
It's why sprouting, what to do with sprouts, specific nutrition around sprouts, some of the science. This is now 7 years ago. I did the work on broccoli sprouts and sulforaphane, which has become mainstream. Like, even, Rich Roll, had Rhonda Patrick, on the podcast talking about broccoli sprouts and microplastics and detoxification. So this is just that. And then there's 40 recipes. I actually went to Oprah's recipe developer who did her recipes. And I said, I want to create recipes that are all raw, all plant-based, 50% sprouts, and delicious. So we worked, for a greater part of a year coming up with 40 recipes, testing the recipes, and making that work.
Wow. Okay. How exciting. And then the sprouting company, how do we get our hands on this?
The sproutingcompany.com. And we've been putting this out. And when we designed the sprouting kit, everything takes time. It took years, right? And we designed a larger jar, better airflow, better drainage, aesthetically beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Stainless steel filter, dishwasher safe, and that people could use. And it's interesting now, our average customer has 2 sprouters or more.
Is that right?
Yeah, because they're staggering their crops, they're growing multiple crops. And like every day I go online, I go into my email, and the people are just excited about sprouting. And I feel like, wow, this was so worth it. Because in the beginning, I couldn't get arrested, right? Like I'm talking about sprouts. No one would talk to me. I couldn't get on any podcasts. My social media had like 1,000 people. It was just like I was saying, what am I doing? And my wife says, intuition whispers, and it just said, keep going, just keep going. And I just kept going, and all of a sudden it just like started to expand and grow.
Like the sprouts?
Like the sprouts.
It's
like
incredible.
exponential.
Yeah.
But it took a while. It really took a while. But now, like, I feel like, whoa, like sprouts went from being a garnish and a side dish, and people would say, oh, what about the mold? To now people are saying sprout salad, nutrient dense, sulforaphane, and all these healing properties. So I feel like the advocacy work over the last 7 years of just sharing the information, the sprouts spoke for themselves.
Yeah.
And, if you go on to now any AI engine, right, anything, like they love sprouts. Like the AI models love sprouts. Google loves sprouts.
Great. They're talking about it. How do people find you on Instagram or website?
Doug Evans on Instagram, TikTok.
You're doing TikTok?
I got 250,000 followers.
No
on TikTok.
way.
Yeah.
They're loving your stuff, huh?
They love it. I've had 100 million views of my content on TikTok.
So TikTok's on fire for you.
Yeah. I mean, it goes like sometimes I'll get 4 million views on a post.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get 300.
Yeah.
And I don't care. I post every single day on TikTok. Every day for the last 3 years.
Oh, whoa. Okay.
So it does
Consistency.
Consistency.
I love that, man. So exciting. Every time I talk to you, I realize how severely depleted I am in sprouts.
Yeah.
And how I'm like, oh yeah, duh, I need to bring those back. I'll have some throughout the week, but not like I want to have. I'm looking at that and I want all of it. So that's what I'm gonna start getting back into.
I mean, look, I think with your platform and with you could literally organize and do a sprout week, right? And bring together people and do a sprout challenge. And we can, I'm happy to support. I'll come up with recipes and guidance, and people can do it. And I've seen this, like I've supported parishes and communities and churches with hundreds of people that they'll all read the book together. They'll do a book reading.
Amazing.
And then I'll zoom in to them, and then they'll start growing the sprouts. And literally, I can show you after people have lost 60 pounds, eating sprouts with no diet. And what happens is that they have to go to the doctor, not because they're not feeling good, to titrate down the medicines because they don't need as much of the statins, of the blood thinners, of the hypertension medicine. So it's important to work with your doctor if you're going to make the radical changes.
Huge.
And the biggest thing is the mindset. For someone to actually, a lot of people just are resigned to their current existence, right? They just accept that identity. So if they can actually hold themselves and envision themselves being fit, being healthy, being energetic, then the transformation will come.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Amen, man. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show, and even to hear you talk. Like even at parties, just hearing you talk and your passion for sprouts. I remember my girlfriend met you and she's like, I love his passion. He's really just like, it's so authentic. And what you're bringing into the world, bringing a healthier world, nutrient connected humans, which is everything, right? It's longevity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what you're experiencing, it's part Doug Evans, and it's just part the Sprout energy that it's
coming through you.
It's just fueled. I'm fueled by sprouts.
Okay. I love that. All right, everyone, go try some sprouts, okay? Get some broccoli sprouts at the very least, lentil sprouts, chickpea, and let's get it going. Let's get our health to the next level. Thank you so much, Doug.
Thank you.